Alright, so how does vlogging work? Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Nithya and this is a Shadow and Bone reading vlog. I have read Shadow and Bone previously before when I was in 9th grade, which was like 3 years ago, and now I'm rereading it and I am totally recording this past midnight, so if this is kind of incohesive, yeah, I just needed an intro and I didn't want to wait till tomorrow, so midnight intros for the reading vlog. Anyways, that's that. But the show's coming out and I'm really excited, and I had some thoughts in this reread and some pleasant and unpleasant surprises as I go through the journey. I should definitely be doing this more, where I reread a lot of my old books and see how I feel about them now. I think I might make that a series, but anyways, Shadow and Bone reading vlog. I should get to sleep, so roll the intro to roll to the actual content, where I'm actually not sleep deprived completely. Actually, that's a lie, I'm still sleep deprived. Anyways, moving on. Also, as you can probably tell from the incohesive kind of random intro that is super low quality, the rest of this video is going to be equally as low quality as the intro and the first snippet. So, with that being said, spoiler alert, I will be discussing some major plot points in the story, and so if you haven't read it, please click out of this video. Yep, now that that's done, on to the video for real this time. Well, it's procrastinate on homework and read instead time, and I am starting Shadow and Bone! I actually read this my freshman year of high school, and I really enjoyed it back then. But this was also the second high fantasy I have ever read, second high fantasy series. And so, yeah, this kind of has a special place in my heart. I've also met Leigh Bardugo, and it was amazing. She signed this copy. I met her at YALLFest, by the way. And yeah, so I do really have fond memories of this series. But I've also, since then, I have read a lot more YA fantasy, and I have seen these tropes played out multiple times, countless times, in a lot of other books. I have read a lot of YA fantasy. So I'm interested to see what I still think about this. I remember when I first read it, I really enjoyed Genya. Genya was my favorite character. Nikolai was also great, but that's in the second book, so I'll get to that later, I guess. And I didn't really enjoy Darkling, but I didn't care that much about Darkling, and I really liked Mal. That's basically all I remember, other than like Lena as a sun summoner and like a few scenes that happened throughout the book. It's very vague, like the whole hunt for these charm things that amplify your power. I don't remember is what I'm saying, and I'm very excited to reread this, especially since the show is coming and I really want to watch the show, and I'm very excited to reread this, and I can't wait to take you on the journey.
The servants called them Melanchkai. Little ghosts because they were the smallest and the youngest, and because they haunted the Duke's house like giggling phantoms, darting in and out of rooms, hiding in cupboards to eavesdrop, sneaking into the kitchen to steal the last of the summer peaches. The boy and the girl had arrived within weeks of each other. Two more orphans of the border wars, dirty-faced refugees plucked from the rubble of distant towns and brought to the Duke's estate to learn to read and write or to learn a trade. The boy was short and stocky, shy but always smiling. The girl was different, and she knew it.
Okay, so I'm popping back in here real quickly so I can talk about the prologue of this book. Here's the thing about prologues. I personally don't like prologues all that much because I think they can be extremely deceptive as to what the book will be like. And you know, the first few pages you read is kind of the first impression you get from a book, and when the prologue is not like the rest of the book, then it's a little bit disappointing. Looking at you, Land of Stories, I was really excited after reading the prologue, and then I actually got to the story and I was like, no, I wanted what was in the prologue, and you gave me this instead. It's still a good book. My cousin's probably gonna hate me for this, but you know, the prologue was better than the book. But this book, I went off track. I actually really like the prologue for this book because it, one, sets up the setting really well. It talks about the Grisha, it talks about the stigma that people have around them. It discusses kind of it kind of sets up a sense that the world is bigger than what Mal and Alina are experiencing. There is multiple perspectives that are shown just in the prologue with the two, Grisha and then Anna, whoever the orphanage owner is. And it also sets up the whole thing with the war, and more importantly, it sets up Mal and Alina's relationship and how they've kind of leaned on each other throughout their childhood in the orphanage. And I think that's really important for the rest of the series, because if you kind of jumped in without the prologue, I feel like their relationship would be kind of jarring with the direction it turns to, you know? But I think with the prologue and with this background information, it sets up the story really well. It sets up Mal and Alina's relationship, and it gives you the sense that this world is kind of bigger than just what we see in the book, and I really like that. That's pretty cool. Hello, it is day 2 of me reading Shadow and Bone, and I gotta say, I am really enjoying it right now. I have found myself being lost in the story, and I haven't been able to do that in a while, so I'm really excited that I could kind of be completely immersed. And also the fact that this kind of lives up to what I remember it being, and that's always exciting. So that's a lot of fun. So I'm really happy. I really like the world and the magic and the world, the aesthetic of the book, I guess. I don't know. I'm really enjoying it right now, so that's cool. Also, while reading this, I am being reminded of basically my old writing, like the way I used to write back in 9th or 10th grade-ish, where I used to write like these long blocks of text that are interjected with like some slight character dialogue. I don't write like this anymore because I've gotten better at writing characters, but at the time I used to absolutely dread writing dialogue, which is a whole nother thing. But the way it's written, it's a lot of like grand plot stuff and grand descriptions, but not that much character interaction, and that's the way I used to write. And it's really cool to see that like the books you read have direct influences on your writing, and I mean, I guess this is like a perfect example of that, and I just thought that was really cool. So yeah. Oh, also the first scene we were introduced to Darkling is absolutely amazing. It's so much fun. I love it. Fantasy protagonists, Alina isn't really the most likable protagonist ever. She's just kind of boring. The Darkling, on the other hand, I totally, now that I'm rereading it, I totally get why people ship them. Not saying like it's a good ship at all, but like, I totally get it, and oh my gosh, every scene Darkling is in, it's kind of like elevated because of like the banter and like the chemistry they have. Like, I don't know, as far as Dark Lords go, I think Darkling was actually pretty cool.
In the summer, they endured long hours of chores followed by even longer hours of lessons in the stifling classrooms. When the heat was at its worst, they escaped into the woods to hunt for birds' nests or swim in the muddy little creek. Or they would lie for hours in the meadow watching the sun pass slowly overhead, speculating on where they would build their dairy farm and whether they would have 1 white cow or 2 or 3.
Okay, it is the next day, and I am like 150 pages in, and I just got to the part where the priest gives her the lives of saints. And I just remembered that that was actually a short story collection or a novella that Le Bardugo actually has now. So that's really cool, and now I want to read that. Also, I don't like the apparat at all. I don't think I did when I first read it either. Yeah, just a very uncomfortable character. That's fun. Oh my gosh, the Darkling. He knows he's such a bad guy, and he knows it, and it's so much fun to read. You know? It's a lot of fun. Okay, but like, The end of chapter 12 is brilliant. The way it was written, the way it hits the feels, and the construction of it, the escalation. Oh my god, I love it. It's, by the way, the end of chapter 12 is basically the chapter where she summons light, so that's a lot of fun. And it's so good. I really like it. Also, I really like the change between like Alina before chapter 12 and then Alina after chapter 12. I think it's really effective and it's really cool, and the entire tone of the thing shifts and it's really cool. So yeah, love it. You know, absolutely not related to reading at all, but I just finished playing D&D, and let me tell you, if you don't play D&D, then you're missing out on kind of a lot, and I'm very sorry for you. Just go play D&D, you'll enjoy it. Alright, ignoring the mop that is on my head, I am also heading to school. I know, it's my first day in person. There's going to be like 3 people in each classroom, and I'm gonna be reading on the bus, so I'm very excited. Yeah.
In the winter, the Duke left for his city house in Os Alta. As the days grew shorter and colder, the teachers grew lax in their duties, preferring to sit by the fireplace and play cards or drink kwas. Bored and trapped indoors, the older children dawdled on more frequent beatings. So the boy and girl hid in the disused rooms of the estate, putting on plays for the mice and trying to keep warm. On the day the Grisha examiners came, the boy and the girl were perched in the window seat of the dusty upstairs bedroom, hoping to catch a glimpse of the mail coach. Instead, they saw a sleigh, a troika, pulled by 3 black horses, pass through the white stone gates of the estate. They watched its silent progress through the snow to the Duke's front door. 3 figures emerged in elegant fur hats and heavy wool keftas, one crimson, one in the darkest blue, and one in vibrant purple. "Grisha!" the girl whispered. "Quick!" said the boy.
Okay, hello. I just got back from school, and you know, I thought I'd share this, the situation with you guys. Everything's fine. There is like 1/4, no, like less than that. There's like 3 people in each classroom. I'm the only person in some of my classes, which is funny. But anyways, what I thought was even funnier is that lunch literally felt like 1984. So we'd all go to the cafeteria. There wasn't that many people. There were like 30 or 40 people. No, probably less than that. I don't even know. We're all wearing masks, and everyone's facing in one single direction. And we would eat really quickly and then put our masks back on. And it's really funny because it was very organized and super like proper, and it just felt like 1984, and it was great. It was great. I'm gonna look back on this someday and I'll be like, I have actually gone to school where I was the only person in the class besides the teacher at in certain classes, which is funny because that's never a thing that would happen otherwise if it wasn't for this COVID. Yeah. But so I know I've talked about Alina being a kind of incredibly boring character, and I think I finally know why. It's because she has absolutely no agency in the story. Things just kind of happen to her, and she just kind of goes along with it. Like, you know, she finds out she's a Grisha, and she's taken to this palace where she's made into a goddess. And then, you know, she finds out from, like, her teacher that she has to run, and so she runs. She doesn't really have that much, she doesn't make decisions on her own. It's either like Darkling, Mal, or someone else in the story making decisions, at least up till this point. I don't know what happens next, but yeah, that's interesting. And I think I'm gonna talk about this more after I finish the book, but I think honestly it kind of works for the story, because if she was a more interesting character, if she had more agency, I don't think it would have made sense for the plot to go the direction it's going. I don't know, that's just me though. Alright, so I just finished reading Shadow and Bone. I had a blast. I think what I'm gonna do is sleep on this and wake up tomorrow and do a review. Alright, hello. It is the morning of the next day, and like I said, I finished reading Shadow and Bone, and I had a blast. I gave this book, or I would give this book now, a 4 out of 5 stars. When I first read it, I gave it a 5 stars, and I just think that's because my reading tastes have changed, they've evolved, and I've grown. So yeah, but I still think it's a solid book. I really enjoyed it. I had a blast reading it. I will say I did enjoy the first half of the book more than the latter half of the book, and that's because I really liked Little Palace, because it just felt like so magical, and it's the kind of vibe I really like in a setting, with all the Grisha hierarchy and the nobles and Genya and Alina just trying to fit in with these people. I really enjoyed that, and then the latter half when they go hunting for the stag, I did enjoy it, I just liked it less. Something about the first half and the Little Palace was really intriguing and beautiful that kind of wasn't there in the latter half. I really like the world, the magic, the hierarchy, it's very vibrant and it feels lived in, it feels real, and I think that's the biggest thing. The characters in this book they're decent, but they work for the story. Bella does not have agency in the story for the most part until like the very end. And honestly, that makes a lot of sense. When I first started reading this 3 days ago, I was like, wait, why does Alina remind me of Bella Swan? I don't like Bella Swan. I hate it. But like, why is she like Bella Swan? And I realized, yeah, she is kind of like Bella Swan. At the beginning of the book, she doesn't do anything. She just kind of follows the people around her, doesn't really do very much that she wants to do. But that makes sense because her story is not about being powerful. It's about finding somewhere where she belongs. She's an orphan who never really had anyone and never fit in anywhere except with her best friend Mal. And the feelings aren't really reciprocated. Like, she just kind of feels like she's alone. And when this great powerful Grisha, the Darkling, came and said, oh, you're going to be powerful, you're gonna save the world, of course she's gonna stand up and do whatever he asks of her because she wants to fit in somewhere. She wants to be loved, she wants to fit in, and she wants to be respected. And that makes a lot of sense in the story, and that's why she's so easily manipulated and abused by Darkling. And that's why she is so easily controlled by her surroundings, and that's why she does make the decisions she does at the very end. Does that mean I like Alina's character? No, she is just as boring as she was before. She's a typical YA protagonist, but like, it fits the story, so I'll read her point of view. But I do think one perk of having such a boring protagonist is that everything else around her is more interesting that way, because it's just everything's through her eyes. You're reading about her and she is so vanilla and plain and boring, and then you read everything else and everything else is just a lot better because the bar is set really low. Then we have our other main two characters who are Darkling and Mal. Like I said at the beginning, Darkling was a blast to read because he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows he is a manipulator and an abuser, and he knows he's a powerful person and nobody can stop him. And he knows that, and he takes advantage of it, and it is so much fun to read. He's a terrible person and a garbage human being. Well, he isn't even a human being. I don't even know what he is. But yeah, it's awful. The way Leigh Bardugo wrote it is unfortunately so freaking realistic to how it is in the real world, but it also kind of makes me wonder what would have happened if Alina didn't listen to Bagara and leave. I don't want to know, but also at the same time I'm a tiny bit curious, but no, I don't want to know. So yeah, I think the Darkling was a very well-written villain, so I thought that was a lot of fun. And then we have Mal. Mal is literally the voice of reason in this book. Literally. He makes probably the most sense out of everyone in the story. The way he reacts to meeting Alina again, the way he reacts towards the end, and what he does, and all of that. And also, like, he literally goes, we're gonna go look for the stag, because he knows that Alina's not gonna make the decision for herself, because she freaking does not do that kind of stuff. And things like that, and he knows that they can't keep running, and I really liked Mal's character. I'm very excited to reread Siege and Storms, which is next. I do remember it being my least favorite book of the trilogy, That's also because I think it kind of drags on with them at the sea and whatnot. In the beginning was a little bit slow, but I'm excited regardless. And we get to meet, you know, Nikolai Lantsov, who is absolutely great from what I can remember. So I'm very excited about that. And now I have to go edit this video and also translate a bunch of Latin stuff. So yeah, that's great. So at some point of time I started doing this thing where I started like marking like the pages that I really liked and like writing like little reactions to them. Like, you know, if I read one that like really surprises me, I'd be like, oh my gosh, what the heck, or something like that. And I think I just realized that this is the book that kind of started it all. I think I had a pad of sticky notes next to me and I literally marked the pages that I really liked or the quotes that I really liked. So I'm very excited. I wonder what pages I marked and if I would mark them again or what other pages I would mark. This is a trip back memory lane. I'm really enjoying it. Alright, so I just got off the bus and I am walking home from my bus stop, but I am around like 80 pages into Siege and Storms, and you know, we met Stromhand, I think that's how you say it, I'm not 100% sure, who, as we all know, Nikolai Lantsov, which is very exciting. Also, what the heck? Since when, why in the world would you ship Darklina? Like, no, Darkling is awful. Okay, anyways, but I'm actually really enjoying it so far. I for some reason I thought the whole hunting for the other one, I want to say Horcrux, but I know it's not a Horcrux. You know, the amplifier is, I know hunting for the other amplifier, for some reason I thought it was going to be like sort of a montage thing. I'm glad it's not. It's actually a lot of fun. It's more fun than I remember. But yeah, anyways, that's my update. I'm really enjoying it. I also just really want to get to Six of Crows. I keep seeing a bunch of fan art and like promotion for Six of Crows characters, and not so much for Shadow and Bone characters. So I just want to get to Six of Crows and live the hype, but I'm really enjoying Siege and Storms. Okay, so the weather is surprisingly nice outside, and I have shrinky-dings that need baking. So I'm gonna stay outside for a little bit and read, and yeah.
In an instant, they had shaken off their shoes and were running silently down the halls, slipping through empty music rooms and darting behind columns in the gallery that overlooked the sitting room where Anna Kuya liked to receive guests. They peered through the railing of the balcony to the room below. Two of the Grisha sat by the fire, a handsome man in blue and a woman in red robes with a haughty, refined air. The third, a young blonde man, ambled about the room, stretching his legs. I didn't walk around with 30 knives hidden about my person, but I wasn't completely incompetent. Yes, you are, Alina. I think we figured that out. You are completely incompetent. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, apparently the weather does not like to be predictable, but I have two updates. First of all, Mal deserves so much better. I'm like 200 pages in, and really, like, he deserves better. And also, number two, I just watched the trailer for Shadow and Bone in school, and oh my gosh, it looks so good. It looks like it's going to actually follow the plot of the story, and that's really exciting. And also, like, the casting is brilliant. I mean, I know the casting came out a while ago, but still, it's brilliant. And I'm so excited for it. But yeah, anyways, I'm gonna go home and watch that, the teaser trailer for the show another 50 times. Yeah. Okay, so last night the Shadow and Bone trailer dropped, and I basically just sat there and read. And this morning I woke up and sat there and read, and I finished Siege and Storms. I will say I like this so much more than I remember liking it when I first read it. And honestly, I think part of that is just because I understand more things now and more. I'm just older and whatnot. But I did still think the first like 1/4 was a bit of a drag. I didn't super care about the whole boat expedition thing that happened with the hunting down the sea wisp, but I still enjoyed it. And as soon as they got to Little Palace, I It was amazing. I loved it. I do really like that Alina is more than just this incompetent person that is swayed away by everyone around her. She is more driven. She craves this power that she got a tiny taste of when she was fighting the Darkling or in the Fold. And that was really fun to read. I really enjoyed her struggle with wanting more power and also being content with what she has and not becoming another Darkling, not being obsessed by the power that she has. And that was interesting. And then we have Nikolai, which Nikolai is just a lot of fun. I just really like his character. And then, you know, that. And again, Mal. Mal deserved so much better than what he got. Mal just deserved better. I mean, I don't think you can argue me there. He just deserved a lot better. Darkling. I like that the Darkling is actually a threat in this book. He isn't just, after he's still a threat in this book, he's still, with every time Alina sees him, it kind of sends a shiver down your spine. And like at the end with the whole final battle, the beginning when he first shows up and conjures these like creatures and whatnot, Darkling manages to still be a threat, and that is impressive. I really like how Leigh Bardugo writes the Darkling, because I think one of Leigh Bardugo's strengths is writing villains and the Darkling, especially because I'm reading the Darkling, because he is so awful that you love reading about him. You know, he's like such a bad person. But again, every scene that he's in is like, it's elevated because his character just has so much power. Basically, yeah, I really liked it. I would give this a 4.5 stars, which is surprising because I didn't really think I was going to like this more than I liked the first book. So that's great, yeah. Oh, I also forgot to talk about the Prince Nikolai's brother. Nikolai's brother was so funny to read because we all know he's such a jerk, and you know, it's just so fun to like make fun of him, you know? That was a lot of fun. But yeah. Also, I really like that Alina basically chose to remove the hierarchy of the Grisha, because that was really cool. I think for the rest of the day, I'm not gonna end up reading Shadow and Bone. I think I'm gonna end up starting on The False Prince by Jennifer A. Nelson, because I need to read that for book club, and yeah, I should probably get a start on that, so. Okay, who am I kidding? I'm starting Ruin and Rising. But anyways, before I start, what I'm expecting. This was my favorite book in the entire trilogy. And I am hoping that this will still be my favorite book of the entire trilogy, but we'll see. I remember that they meet up with Nikolai again, and then they're on the ship. And then I also know that the apparat is awful, and they have to they have to escape. And I also know that the ending was amazing, and I loved it. That's all I know. I don't remember much, but I am enjoying Leigh Bardugo's writing more and more as like we're progressing in the series. I feel like her writing is just getting better, and so I'm excited. Alina is powerless. That is exciting to read. I forgot about that, but I'm excited. I told myself I'd read like one chapter, and I'm like 100 some pages in. But I need to do like other work right now. But the book starts off with such a bang. It's so good. Not me staying up late to finish False Prince by Jennifer E. Nelson. Yeah, it was an 8-hour audiobook, and I listened to it on 1.5 speed because it was too fast on double speed. And yeah, I really enjoyed it, and yeah. Okay, and also like I keep watching the Shadow and Bone trailer because it's so freaking epic. And I can't get enough content because I'm reading Siege and Storms, and I just want to just keep reading it and keep getting more of Shadow and Bone, because like all these trailers are dropping and so much more like info's coming out, and I'm really, really excited, and everything looks so epic, and I'm so excited! Okay, well, it's been 3 days since the trailer was released, and I'm still freaking out, so I'm gonna make an impromptu video about it with my thoughts, because this reading vlog is going to be long enough without it. So, yeah. So, not Grishaverse, but I just watched Jesse the Reader's reading for 24 hours straight, where he reads Ash Princess, and now I'm like debating whether I should pick this up again. So I've actually, funny story, I've read both of these books back to back at the very same time, And I can never tell which one of these is what. They're both so similar. But also, like, according to him, there's a lot of politics in the book. And I love fantasy politics. Fantasy politics is so intriguing and I really like it. So I'm debating whether I want to read the rest of the series if, like, there is politics, because maybe I do want to read it. So now I'm conflicted again. I was going to unhaul this, but now I'm like... But anyways, back to Ruin and Rising. I will say that Alina's going back to being absolutely incompetent. I feel like because she's like the Sun Saint, the Sun Summoner, she's just kind of there where everyone else around her kind of tries to protect her. And honestly, like, she's glorified by everyone. I mean, makes sense in the story, but also, like, she doesn't really do much, and that's a little bit annoying because she had, like, a really nice arc at the end of Siege and Storms where she was gaining power and she was actually doing things for once instead of letting everyone else do the thing. But like now they're leaving, they left the Apparat and they're making their way to Nikolai. Well, they found Nikolai actually. And literally everyone else around her decides the path and she's just there to go along. And then when they find the Firebird, she's gonna, yeah, that. So I just want Alina to be interesting. Is that too much to ask? Apparently it is. Okay, so ignoring the fact that my hair doesn't really like me today, update. I haven't read very much since the last time I updated you guys, and that's because school has been a mess. But here's the game plan. I think today I won't end up reading very much because I plan to finish all my homework, film my wrap-up video, and probably clean my room because it's a mess too. And then I can worry about reading, and that's the only thing I really need to do besides reading and like D&D, so yeah, we'll see. Let's hope I do finish homework today, so yeah.
But what are they like? Repeated the woman. They're listening to every word we're saying, said the young man in purple. The boy and girl jumped in surprise. He was staring directly at their hiding spot. They shrank beneath the column, but it was too late. Do you know who we are? The woman asked. Her hair was steel gray and her face lined but beautiful. You're witches, blurted Mal. Witches? She snarled. She rode on Anakuya. Is that what you teach in the school? Superstition and lies? Anakuya flushed with embarrassment. The woman in red turned back to Mal and Alina, her dark eyes blazing. We're not witches, we're practitioners of the small science. We keep this country and kingdom safe.
Tell me that Bardugo hasn't watched Avatar: The Last Airbender. Literally, the escalation of all three books have been almost exactly like the escalation in Avatar. And also, like, the magic system kind of feels really familiar, like the Avatars. But you know what? Whatever, it's really cool, I like it. I just got to the scene where Bagara and Alina are training on, like, the Kingfisher, whichever the ship is called now. And oh my gosh, I love it, where she has to take off the head of the mountain. That was fun. I've also been thinking, like, I usually, like, have a particular scene that I like to draw from the book I'm reading. So, like, when I read Children of Blood and Bone, I read I drew the scene where Amari is braiding Zelly's hair. In the Renegades, I chose the scene from the second book where Noah and Adrian are in this mural painting room dreamscape thing. But I can't really figure out what scene to draw, and I think it's because the scenes I usually tend to gravitate towards are the ones that are extremely character driven. And again, this series the characters aren't really that appealing or interesting. But maybe I'll draw this scene, the one where she has to take off the head of the mountain, because that's a really cool scene. And also, I'm really liking Bagara, and Nikolai a lot in this book. Surprisingly, a lot more. So I'm either gonna draw one of three scenes. The first one being, the one that she takes the head off the mountain, to the scene before that with Genya and the king. Although I'm probably not gonna do that because it's complicated and Or the third scene that I'm thinking about is the scene at the very beginning in the rift, where Alina first discovers her power. So that way I can make like a spoiler-free review and have that scene included in there. Or maybe I'll do both. We'll see what happens. Okay, so I just finished playing D&D, and all I have to say is D&D is awesome. Yeah, that's all. On another note, I don't think I'm going to be able to finish Ruin and Rising today like I planned to do because one, I got distracted by YouTube. Yay! And also because I had more homework, and also because it's a pretty long book. Also, on other note, I just received these 2 books in the mail, so I will be starting these right after I finish Ruin and Rising, which is exciting. But I have thoughts about Ruin and Rising, and yeah, just thoughts. Not all of them good, but I have thoughts. Okay, so I literally haven't touched a book since like a week ago because school and procrastination exist. But I need to fix that because it is Saturday and I need to get this vlog up by Tuesday. So yeah, I'm gonna probably go biking right now, and I'm probably gonna sit at a park and get some reading done. So yeah.
The young man in purple smiled and knelt before the children. He said gently, "When the leaves change color, do you call it magic? What about when you cut your hand and it heals? And when you put a pot of water on the stove and it boils? Is it magic then?" Mal shook his head, his eyes wide, but Alina frowned and said, "Anyone can boil water." Anakuya sighed in exasperation, but the woman in red laughed. "You're very right. Anyone can boil water, but not just anyone can master small science. That's why we've come to test you." She turned to Anakuya. "Leave us now." "Wait!" exclaimed Mal. "What happens if we're Grisha? What happens to us?" The woman in red looked down at them. "If by some small chance one of you is a Grisha, then that lucky child will go to a special school where Grisha learn to use their talents. You will have the finest clothes and the finest foods, whatever your heart desires," said the man in purple. "Would you like that?" "It is the greatest way to serve your king," said Anakuya, still hovering by the door. "That is very true," said the woman in red, pleased and willing to make peace.
Okay, so I was setting up the camera so I can take some aesthetic, vlog-worthy shots. And now I lost my bookmark. And yay!
The boy and the girl glanced at each other, and because the adults were not paying close attention, they did not see the girl reach out to clasp the boy's hands or the look that passed between them. The Duke would have recognized that look. He had spent long years on the ravaged northern borders where the villages were constantly under siege, and the peasants fought their battles with little aid from the king or anyone else. He had seen a woman, barefoot and unflinching in her doorway, face down a row of bayonets. He knew the look of a man defending his home, with nothing more than a rock in his hands.
Alina finally discovered the third amplifier. And also, here's another thing. Again, I probably had a spoiler warning at the beginning, but if you're still here and you haven't read it, please skip over this major spoilers. But you know what? Darkling and Mal are technically related. Also, I really like the plot twist where Mal is the amplifier and not the Firebird, because that is pretty cool. And also, it's done I think it's done really well as well, because the whole thing, well, sort of, I think, I'll talk about this later, but everything happens so fast in the book that you don't really recognize that something happened until it's done happening, and you're like, oh, the characters are talking about what just happened, and you're like, oh, I missed that entire thing. But I think because I was expecting this, because I remember this scene from before, I totally missed it the first time I read it, but like now I think it was done pretty well, and I thought that scene was really cool. Okay, so 50 pages after I made that last statement, they do address the fact that Mal is like the Darkling's nephew/cousin. So yeah, I've got one chapter left and then the epilogue. I just finished it and I want more. Okay, so the epilogue literally ends with, they had an ordinary life full of ordinary things. If love can ever be called that, I just want more of epilogue because... Anyways, let me get some water before I do the recap. Normally, like before, I would do the review at my bookshelf, but I'm lazy. You know the catharsis you feel at the end of a book, where you literally just don't want to do anything except mourn the fact that you finished a book? That is my life right now. And I don't know what to do. Okay, so thoughts. I'm not gonna lie, I had some really big pacing issues, especially towards the beginning of the book. Specifically, everything up until they start looking for the Firebird, because the things that happened felt super jarring. They kind of came out of nowhere, and it was a big mess. So like they leave the underground tunnels. That was all fine. That was actually really cool, and that was paced really, really well. And then after that, they look for the Firebird. That was paced really, really well. And then as soon as they leave the tunnels and they're like traveling, and then Nikolai finds them, and then the Darkling attacks, and all of that kind of, there was no lead up to it. It just kind of happened, and we just kind of moved along with it. Nothing was discovered as to how that happened. Especially when the Darkling attacked the ship. That literally came out of nowhere. That happened, and I was like, wait, what? This happened? What the heck? So that was kind of jarring, and I thought that was weird, and I didn't like that. But everything after that was so good. Leigh Bardugo's writing and storytelling really improves like each book, throughout each book, and that really it really shines in this, and I thought that was really cool. The whole, as I've said before, the whole plot twist with Mal being the third amplifier is done really, really well. I thought that was super cool. And then the ending with them planning. Apparently, I think the strength of this book is when they're literally planning on what to do. Because even in the second book, when they're planning, how to, defend against the Darkling, and then in this book, they're planning how to attack the Fold. Those have been literally the most intriguing parts of the book. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then the ending, the calm before the storm, if you will, when they're all gathered in this house right outside the Fold. That was brilliant. I loved the sense of dread that came from it, but also the sense of companionship and everyone bonding together over this life-threatening experience that they're going to have. And I also really liked Zoya's character arc throughout the book, because when we first meet her in Shadow and Bone, Zoya is basically fill in the blank. She is awful. She literally has no discernible personality other than the fact that she is awful to everyone she meets. And towards the end, she is still known as the person who is awful to everyone, but it's more like kind of a defense mechanism for her, and I thought that was really cool. She makes fun of people because that's her way of coping with everything, and that was pretty cool. And how towards the end everyone just kind of warms up to everyone, Zoya and Genya get along sort of okay, well-ish. At least they have a mutual companionship going on, and that was pretty cool. So yeah, I really liked Zoya in this book. Also, I am really glad that the decision to basically I really like the decision to basically leave Nikolai out of this book for the majority of it, because with him, like at the beginning, it felt so crowded because you have Mal, you have Alina, you have Zoya, you have Jenya, you have David, you have Sergi and Hershel and Oncat and Nadia and the twins and so many freaking characters. And to be fair, most of them don't really have a personality. They're just kind of there to be there. But at the same time, like Mal and Nikolai were such strong presence. Like if you have them in the same room, it gets kind of awkward because of the romantic tension and the love triangle and everything going on. So the decision to cut Nikolai out of the book was really smart, and I really appreciated that, because I just think it helped develop everything. And speaking of leaving Nikolai out of the book, I also really appreciate the fact that the love triangle and the romance took a backseat in this book, because I really enjoyed it way more than I did in this book, the ending of this book, way more than I did Shadow and Bone or Siege and Storms, because there was actually more focus on getting the plot down, like finding the Firebird and figuring out how to defeat the Darkling. Also, the new threat of the Darkling being able to enter the fold, that was brilliant. He now has a way to enter the fold, and it was all because of like negligence slash just failure from the Alina and their part. The Sun Soldiers were also pretty dope, Ruby and the other people. The Apparat is still awful. The Darkling is still awful, and I don't care. I know there was kind of there was sort of a redemption slash, oh, he isn't that bad, he's like he's just a lonely child complex going on, but no, he's awful, he will forever be a monster. Change my mind. Actually, you won't, so don't try. So I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah, overall my thoughts on the series as a whole, I still stick to the fact that Alina is a boring protagonist. Although I will say when the love interests are all out of the picture, she is a lot more interesting. But she's actually ambitious and trying to do things. Like towards the end of the third book, sometime in the second book, she is a lot more interesting and fun to read. I really like Zoya's character arc. As I've said before, the Darkling is a freaking awesome villain. Villain is the key word here. Villain. He's not a good person. He's an awful villain, and I love him because he's such a strong presence. Bagara is probably my favorite character. I keep going back and forth between Bagara and Zoya and the Darkling. But Bagara is really cool. She also has that presence that the Darkling has, but isn't as awful as the Darkling. And I really liked Bagara's character, so I thought that was pretty cool. Oh, the world building. I really like the world building in this. I think the world building and the world is what kept me interested in the story. Because without the magic and the world that Le Bardugo has created, I would have lost interest because there would have been nothing keeping me invested in the story. But because the world building has done so well, I was invested and wanted to keep reading. And also, the magic system was pretty cool. I like that towards the end of the series, Alina starts to push her light powers a lot more, and I kind of wish we see that more, but obviously that section of the story ended. There probably isn't another Sun Summoner unless King of Scars comes out with a big spoiler, but you know, whatever. No. I thought Darkwing's death was pretty good. Yeah, well, yeah, that's basically it. I will say there are definitely flaws in the series. I definitely was reading this at some point of time and I was like, I will say there's definitely flaws in the series. There was a lot of times where I was like, I am not invested in the story very much, especially like towards the middle of this book. I literally was just like, I don't know, I wasn't really invested. And I think that's mainly because this was Le Bardugo's first debut series, and there's a lot of things that are great in the story, and I feel like they could have been achieved a lot better, maybe like a lot more clear. And again, the pacing issues, if they were resolved a little bit, that would have been great. Not all of the characters are interesting. There is literally developed personalities for the Darkling, Bagara, what's her name? Alina. Well, no, not even Alina. Alina's boring. The Darkling, Mal, Nikolai, Zoya-ish, Jenya-ish, and Bagara. So everyone else is kind of like a cardboard cutout of a personality type, and they're just there to serve plot purposes and to have characters in the story. So I think definitely having a large cast of characters is great, but I would also have to like to see them more developed, like Harsha, or like Sergi, the other guy, and all the others. So I thought that was interesting. I would have liked to see that. But other than that, I really enjoyed it, and I didn't think I cared about the story, and then I got to the end and I was like, I felt that catharsis. And you know, if I didn't care about the story and I didn't care about these characters, I wouldn't have felt that catharsis. So that's definitely something. I really like the ending. I always thought she should have ended up with Mel. I'm glad she ended up with Mel because it just makes the most sense in the grand scheme of things. Like, she couldn't have ended up with Nikolai because that would have made another mess. So I'm glad she ends up with Mel, and I'm glad it was resolved the way it is. So yeah, I can't say if I like this book more than the second book, but it's tied. And I'd say I like this a little bit more than the second book, so. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. This isn't the first vlog I've ever filmed, so I'm not sure how it's gonna come out, but you know what? Whatever. I do plan to draw a character or a scene from this book, and if I do that, I'm probably gonna make a spoiler-free review thing if you cannot watch this because spoilers. And so yeah, do look out for that. I will also be posting a Six of Crows reading vlog because I'm gonna read that too. And that one I will be reading for the first time, so that's exciting. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! Okay, it is the next day because I can't stop thinking about the epilogue. Like, look, the rest of the book was fine. It was okay. I enjoyed it. I really liked it. And then the epilogue just hits different, okay? So I'm gonna give this book 5 out of 5 stars because of the epilogue. Yep. It deserves it.